You're still watching the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning. Next month, the federal government will roll out a new tax policy aimed at restructuring how individuals and businesses contribute to the nation's revenue. But while the government insists this reform will create a fairer, more efficient tax system, many Nigerians are asking the same questions. What exactly is changing? Will I pay more? And how will these affect my business? Joining me on the program virtually today to talk about this, we're breaking down everything for you to understand, is Dr. Emerie Agunwah, a business management consultant. You're welcome on the program, Dr. Emerie.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. There's no need going over the narrative again. Let's just start our conversation. What exactly is this new tax policy the federal government is introducing?
And interestingly, this tax policy is one of the best things that's ever happened to this economy. This is the government mopping up loose funds and loose resources that has never been accounted for over the period of since we got independence. So this is quite the best, for me, the best economic advancement that we've ever had. This is capturing those resources that we're losing in undocumented business transactions. And ultimately, I think Nigerians will be happy for it sooner than later.
So this tax reforms, I would like you to break it down for us so that business owners can understand, and also Nigerians, because we've had lots of confusion, people asking, sensitization programs going on here in Enugu and other parts of the country. So I'd like to break it down. Who is paying what? And what's in for businesses in the new tax reform?
So interestingly, I believe that what we are dealing with in Nigeria is the problem we've always had with familiar with undocumented taxation, right? This is the first time we're having a government put their feet on the ground to say we need to get all the resources that are loose, hanging around, and pull it into a unified resource that is structured, like every other developed system, which is structured taxations. Now, interestingly, the tax reform has a lot of incentives for business owners. And I'll have to say that, Nigeria is about 70% small businesses. And because we're small businesses, we're suffering from liquidity, cash flow. We are still struggling. Lots of them are bootstrapping. They do not have access to finance through structured loans and everything. So we really work hard as a people to get our resources. And that's why if you look at the tax policy, you will find that if you make 100 million naira or below, you are completely tax exempt as a company, right? So if you make 100 million naira, you are completely tax exempt. And if you have a business asset of less than 250 million, you are also tax exempt. So which is where the biggest bucket where we have most SMEs are. Very few SMEs in Nigeria make more than 100 million naira a year in revenue. So this is the government saying we acknowledge what you're passing through. The taxations are not really to cripple businesses, but to say we need to document your processes. We need to have an idea of what is coming in and put you in the right place where you belong. Exempt you from taxes and make sure you don't pay anything if you're making less than 100 billion naira every year. And now, interestingly, if your resources keep exceeding or increases, which is what everybody is praying for, that your business gets to do better and it increases significantly, then the margins also would increase for taxations. And I think that according to the tax policy, it's pretty much between 25 and 35% max. And it's pretty healthy compared to what's happening in the rest of the world. So for me, I would say the people who should be completely excited about this are the primary people who do business, which is where we have bulk of us in SMEs. Now, the people that ultimately would cry or have never been taxed before are people who are in the shadow economy, people who do businesses that are not documented, people who trade by cash, people who also have volume of transactions that now have to be reported. Now, the policy is also have digital support around it to make sure that every transaction through your bank is documented. And when you document it, including every transaction, you have to put in the description of each transaction. This will help in understanding proper auditing to know where the funds are coming from and what they are for. So interestingly, This is the pathway of documented reporting of taxation to know who is tax exempt and who qualify for tax incentives. Because if you do business, you will definitely have tax incentives if you're supporting growth in different economies. And this is the government saying, we see you, we hear you, and we want to make these policies to make sure that you are looked after.
So you mentioned that companies who make below or 100 million naira would not be taxed. How about staff members working in those companies?
So definitely. So if you're working in those companies, that's what they call income tax, right? Personal income tax. You would have to pay your taxes according to your income. Now, if you earn 800,000 or below, you are completely tax exempt in this policy. So, meaning the lowest earners are tax exempt. And as you all, like every other tax system, the more you earn, the more you pay your taxations. And the margins are pretty much very healthy in such a way that income tax do not bore holes in your pocket. But what we're dealing with is that we have lots of businesses who are not documented. And because you're not documented, you are not registered as a limited liability company, you would be in the bracket of personal income tax, which will put you in the wrong place taxation-wise. So if you do business and you have not registered it, the best option to enjoy certain tax incentives is to find yourself in a place where to register your company in such a way that you will have all the tax incentives and benefits. Ultimately, beyond this the transaction, because this is a new stuff that we're dealing with. Everybody are used to, if you make 1 million naira, you have 1 million naira, nothing goes to the government. And nobody likes accountability, but it's interesting that accountability is the only pathway for structured growth. And this is the government giving us a legitimate pathway for having accountability in our finances. And this also helps us to know who gets what and what we're giving people. Now, if you're paying someone less than 800,000 a year, they know their taxes, and that gives them a bracket of where they belong. And we also know that a lot of Nigerians, in regards to the minimum wage structure, fall into that structure. And a lot of Nigerians who are the low earners are completely tax exempt.
You know, I did my calculation yesterday from the minimum wage, which is about 80,000 naira. So someone who earns 80,000 naira every month earns about, I think, 960,000 naira in a year. And when you divide it, they would actually pay 15% tax from what they earn in a year. And when you divide it, you see that they're paying up to, I think, 14,000 naira a month. And then when you look at people that earn 150,000 naira a month, for instance, and you calculate it, you see that they are paying up to, I think, 22,500 naira, I beg your pardon, every month. Don't you think that's quite a lot for the ordinary Nigerian?
So absolutely, the way finance is structured in every business is that you now know what comes in as benefits and what comes in as direct payment, right? It could come as holistic payment, and this is what they call smart accounting everywhere in the world. You don't have to put everything into bulk payment. That's what they call, you have to put certain things in as structured as benefits, some are structured as allowances and everything. That puts you in a different smart tax bracket, so that what you get taxed as personal income is completely different from all the benefit that you get to. And this is, for me, once again, a wake-up call for business owners to find smart ways to do business, structuring your business in such a way that they could give people what is due them as wages and add the other value probably as other incentives that are not directly monetized.
So you're saying this is not a lot for an ordinary Nigerian?
Absolutely. If you run comparative analysis with what is going on in Europe, where some people have taxations between 35-49% of their income, you understand that Nigeria is a very healthy place taxation-wise. And if you've gone around the world, you realize that taxes are the primary source of income for government. And if you haven't been paying that, little wonder the government is having massive loans. We keep taking out loans when we have not been able to mop up resources down on that. Now, this is not to say that nobody feels the pains of the masses. I mean, I'm not part of government, but all we're saying is that structurally, globally, in every sense of business analysis, the truth is that no country, no economy thrives without taxations. And we have to find best ways to accommodate these tax reforms, capturing the people that have not been reflected in the tax structure, and make sure that the government has resources to give us the services that we require as a people. But primarily, this tax is not against the people. It is to give us better ways to do business in such a way that we could elevate and operate like every other person globally and make ourselves accountable taxation-wise.
Many analysts have compared Nigeria to other international companies. My question is, do you think Nigeria have the system to, implement this tax without impoverishing the citizens?
I can't say we are beyond improve, because ultimately, do we have the system? There are two questions. Do we have the system to implement these taxations? We will wait to see from 1st of January 2026. And I think the government has been putting many things in place. I've had a few conversations as a business consultant dealing with multiple businesses also in Nigeria. And I've seen some of them are elevating their processes to capture some of this stuff that is going on. So tools are coming in, digital solutions are coming in, companies have been given licenses to operate to make sure that this whole stuff is integrated. And digital invoice in such a way that some gets to the tax office and some gets to you, and everybody can have transparent records. So do I think they have the technology? I think they are working assiduously to have that. We're going to wait and see. Now, on the flip side of the other question is to make sure that we don't get broke. I believe that before everything, I believe that the businesses have had, lots of businesses that I know have had time to start putting their books in place, putting their house in order to factor in some of these operations. And ultimately, it's not one of those things that we could wish away. And it's one of those things that we have to adjust and find best ways, get proper education around it, and realize that tax is not our enemy. Tax is actually a friend, or in such a way that the government needs to find resources and pay and run the government. If not, everything we think we are gaining by not paying tax, we are going to lose out in inflation when we have multiple interest paying off our loans through the people we are owing as a country. So ultimately, it's a win-win. There's always going to be pressure because we are not used to it as a people, but this is going to be a pathway for structured growth and people coming together to do business in such a way that they have massive accountability, and in such a way that we could also eliminate money laundering, and we have structural growth for businesses and for the economy. So it's a win-win for everybody.
All right, before we let you go, Dr. Emerie, let's talk about compliance. What should businesses start doing now to prepare when this policy takes effect?
First is that if you've got a business that's not registered, as a limited liability company, my advice is go do it right now. Your business name wouldn't serve you. Number two, if you do cash transactions, I rather that you start standardizing your payments through the bank and having structured finances. If you're also in such a way that you can't tell the difference between personal finances and corporate finance, your corporate money, you do it right now, start getting your money separated. That is one of the things you have to do. And if you've been getting payment without invoice and giving out receipts, you have to start putting the very little things on board in your system. Start putting your books in order, because when the taxman comes, you need to show them in plain sight. This is what came in. This is what went out. This is what it's for. We reinvested this stuff into the business. This is the tax incentives we have to get. And these are the support we need to get. This is taxes we need to pay, taxes, profit before tax, profit after tax, conversion that we need to start having in businesses, and also for people who earn. So next time somebody wants to give you, put you a salary and say, I'm going to pay you 100,000, I'm going to pay you 200,000. You need to know that what they agree to pay you is not necessarily your take home, because your take home is what is taken after tax. So you don't have to say because they put 200,000 on paper or 500,000 on paper, that is what belongs to you. You need to know that this percentage goes to the government and you know what you are actually paid. So this is more like a little bit of financial intelligence and literacy that needs to start happening to the common man. And that's part of the compliance for the common man who is salary earner. Needs to start having a lot more education on this and putting your books in order and put all your your tax records for proper documentation and align yourself. And I would advise businesses that have not gone digital in many ways, digitize some of these processes. That makes it a lot easier to avoid manual errors and human errors that could lead to tax evasion.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Emerie, for joining us on the STEM Business Report today.
Thank you very much.
And that's as much we can take on the STEM Business Report today. Many thanks for staying with us. Until I see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Afia Business Morning, I am Marvelous. Apuamaga. Bye for now.